Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on a gray, overcast, cold Friday. A cold Friday with temperatures that are supposed to stay cold or get even colder for the next day. It's not until the weekend that Boston is going to go back to normal, with temperatures in the mid-50s to low 60s Fahrenheit in the middle of winter. Imagine having to put up with cold. There's ice on the ground. And the threat in the forecast today of a little snow. So it's a very indoorsy type day. Well, the feet of my little dog, she's swathed in blankets right here right now. There she is. There's her epic side eye. She doesn't particularly like inclement weather, whether it's rain or wind or snow or anything like that. It was a beautiful day, and mostly what we have here in the extreme south is beautiful days that are 70s and completely bone dry, no moisture of any kind, including dew, and bright sunlight. That's usually the weather in Boston, 99% of the time. Now it is cold outside with ice, and because it snowed right before this temperature drop, there's still snow on the ground, a fifth of an inch. It's a wonder you can even see things. So she doesn't want to be out for long. We aren't going on long walks, so we're doing a little more playing here inside Hyde Cottage, because you need to burn off the calories. She does, and so do I. So ordinarily we do that by taking an enormously long walk in the middle of every day. We can't do that when it's cold outside. She doesn't want to do that when it's cold outside. So we've been playing instead, wrestling and roughhousing on the floor, which has been a lot of fun. Fun has not been the theme lately this last 24 hours, and I'm not going to complain to you during a mail haul, then what am I going to do? What are you there for if not to complain? I have two complaints that I want to issue. One has to do with, I think that technically it was a fault of mine, although I'm going to find a way to blame David Murphy. I ordered socks on Amazon because I'm really, really hard on my things, and especially on socks. I go through them like you wouldn't believe. So I called up socks on Amazon and ordered them. I assumed that the first thing that Amazon suggested to me when I typed that in would be something that I had already ordered. So I didn't pay too much attention to it. And what came in the mail were those tiny little booty socks, the ones that barely, I think they're called invisible socks. They don't even go up to the ball of your ankle. They only cover the bottom of your foot. And that was a mistake. I obviously did not want such things myself. I am familiar with them because when David Murphy, none of you know who he is because he nuked his channel, but he used to be a booktuber. And when he has come here to Hyde Cottage to visit, I have not been able to help noticing that he wears these little booty socks on his tiny little booty feet. And, you know, I didn't do this in slavish invitation of him. Okay? He's not the boss of me. It was a mistake. That package came and it was a mistake. And I thought, I hate waste. So, all right, you got these. You might as well use them. And they're not going to last very long, and then you'll learn your lesson. You'll pay attention to the fine print next time. I can't use them. I swear, I can't. I've tried with an open mind. I can't use them. They slip off my feet completely, and they're freezing cold when it's outside like this. I wore some this morning. The one pair that I have that I have not given to my surly houseboy, I wore them this morning, and it was brutal. So I ordered real socks, and if my surly houseboy doesn't want the rest of these, I'm just gonna get rid of them. I'm just going to throw them away. Waste or no waste. So that was one complaint that I wanted to give you. Another complaint that I wanted to give you, I didn't get these booty socks because of David Murphy, and I don't sleep because of the rest of you, even though I know how much you all love it. Oh my, is 8:30 too early? I'm so eager to go unconscious and drool all over my pillow. I'm so eager to do that. I know how much you people love your sleeping. You love it so much that you even add to it during the day with something called a nap. I saw an Instagram feed of beautiful, cozy bedrooms with storms raging outside, but a nice, cozy fire in the fireplace and a deep, comfortable bed and shelves full of books. And what was the caption? Here, I'm going to show you a bunch of these different cozy bedrooms. Which one would you like to nap in the most? In other words, you're not going to be appreciating it. Which one of these rooms would you like to go to and go unconscious? Not sitting and reading in that room. Which one would you like to nap in the most? But nevertheless, occasionally I do have to sleep. And I did this morning. I slept this morning, and I dreamt this morning. I had what felt like a very long dream. Of course, they're not long. They don't last in humans any longer than you've seen them last in your dog when your dog dreams next to you on the bed. It only lasts a little bit. The reason it feels longer is because your dreaming mind can activate the centers of your brain, can use the centers of your brain that register the duration of time. Your brain can make you feel, you are your brain. It can make you feel anything, anything at all, provided you're in the right state. You can feel like you're having a year-long dream that is still only lasting a minute. And I dreamt, this was the very first time this dream that Frida has ever appeared in a dream of mine. Dogs appear in my dreams all the time. But it's never the ones that I expect. It's only two. Only two dogs ever appear in my dreams. One was Weiser, a round, very old, very stiff beagle who just by random chance happened to be the last beagle that I've ever owned. He appears in my dreams. But most of all, by far, is Lucy. I was not even a beagle at all. She was a basset hound. When I dream about a dog, it's Lucy. Almost always. This morning was the first time that Frida has ever been in a dream of mine. I got a phone call from someone who was in desperate need of rehoming their miniature schnauzer. Could I come over and maybe talk to them about it? Come over to their apartment and maybe talk to them about it. In the dream, I went. I didn't go with Frida. I went myself, alone. I walked into their bedroom, and the dog was on the bed. The dog only had a little bit miniature schnauzer. It was still terrier-sized, but longer, leaner. And the dog immediately looked at me and started panting and squirming around for attention. And when I walked into the bedroom with the two people there who wanted to get rid of this dog, I noticed why the dog was squirming on the bed. Because of a detail that they hadn't told me, which is that this dog, this part schnauzer, didn't have the use of his hind legs. And maybe that's why they wanted to get rid of him, because it was too much trouble. The dream didn't go into detail. In the dream, I walked over and greeted the dog, and then elaborately greeted the dog and introduced myself. And I knew in an instant that I would not say no. I knew in an instant from his personality, from his body language, that Frida would not object to him. Despite what it sounds like if you were to follow us around in this neighborhood, she does not hate other dogs. They just need to toe the line. That's all. They need to bend the knee and toe the line. And if they do that, she's okay with them. She's not friendly with them, but she's not unfriendly with them either. She'll just stand there and look at them like they were bugs in the American Museum of Natural History. I knew there would be no problem with them living together. I knew that right away. And I fell in love right away. The two people who wanted to get rid of the dog said his name was Sparky. I didn't want to keep that, obviously, but you like to keep the emphasis. You like to keep the syllable, the living syllable in the name. Now, in the case of Sparky, most dogs won't be able to hear that clearly. It's not down low enough or prolonged enough, whatever the technical acoustical terms are. Most of them can't hear that very clearly, but they can hear the emphasis. They can hear where you're landing on the syllable of the name. So I wanted to keep that. So I renamed the dog Arky. Ark, short for Archangel. And the joke in the dream, all this was happening in the dream. I wouldn't have thought of any of this. All of this in the dream, the joke was that archangels don't do much walking. And this dog doesn't either. Couldn't walk on his own. Could only walk by dragging his hind legs, and then only for a little while. And then the dream jumped to me with Frida, introducing Ark to Frida, and they got along just fine. And became actually friendly. Actually, in the dream, it showed me an aspect of Frida's personality that I have not seen with dogs. I've only seen it with me. She doesn't show affection of this kind, the kind that I saw in the dream. I've never seen it, except to me. Here it was shown to another. She welcomed Ark into our lives. And he would be miserable when we would go out on walks because he couldn't join us. He didn't know what he was missing. He'd never been on a walk. But he missed that we were leaving him. So I started taking him around neighborhood walks in a shoulder tote bag. And he really enjoyed that. But quickly in the dream, God knows how long it actually was, but quickly in the dream, I started to get a little bit no-nonsense with him. Quickly in the dream, I started to say, why is this? Why are you doing this? Are we absolutely sure that your hind legs don't work? The people that gave you to me had no idea why you were like this. You don't have any idea why you're like this, and I don't have any idea why you're like this. Rather than take you to a vet, how about we fill the tub with nice, warm water, and I'll put you in the tub. I'll have my hand under your breastbone the whole time. You won't be in danger of breathing in even a drop of water. You won't sink. But your instinct will be to paddle all 4 of your legs. Let's give that a try. And we did. Just moving from one end of the tub to the other, while an appalled Frida watched from the sidelines because she hates getting a bath. We just gradually moving from one end of the tub to the other. And sure enough, slowly Ark started to move his hind legs. Started to try to paddle with them. And he got stronger and stronger. And the dream jumped again to him walking with me and Frida around the neighborhood. He was still a very frail dog, didn't like any kind of cold or rain or wind or anything. And in the dream, his endurance never seemed to get all that great. He could definitely do a normal neighborhood walk. Frida and I routinely go on walks that climb hills and sheer rock faces and ford streams and whatnot. He can't do any of that. Couldn't do any of that. But he could join us for a normal walk, which is the bulk of the walks that we take. And then the dream ended. And I also woke up. Heartbroken. Because there is no Ark. Because he doesn't exist. Because that didn't happen. So once again, in addition to chiding all the rest of you for sleeping all the time, I also want to say, what the hell do you find enjoyable about this experience? That was heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. No wonder I want to do as little of this as possible. But anyway, there's 12 minutes for you, but you're never getting back. Now we'll move on to the mail. Now that I've griped about David Murphy ankle socks, and I've griped about this ridiculous business of sleeping and dreaming. It will be a long time before I sleep again. That's for sure. But first we'll go. I don't know why anybody watches this channel. I honestly don't. I'm not asking. I've long since given up asking. There is no actual answer. It is a mystery, like the Trinity and the Loch Ness Monster. But I honestly don't know. But we're going to go on to the mail now. And we're going to start with a periodical, because there's a letter in this periodical that I really want to read you. It really is a nerdy cry from the heart. This is the new Harper's. It's got a lot of stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff in here, but I want to read you. Someone responded. Ben Lerner, I think he's insufferable, but I know he has a big readership. He did an article for an earlier issue of Harper's about scamming Wikipedia. It was very hipster cynicism. It was just made of hipster cynicism, and I was reading it and not liking it. I'm a working writer, so is Ben Lerner. If he doesn't use Wikipedia, I'm the Shah of Iran. He does. He doesn't just use it. He relies on it, and so do I. It's an incredible thing. It doesn't get the attention that it deserves, but it is one of the greatest human inventions in the history of the species. Greatest in all senses, not just biggest, but also best. So I didn't like anything about the undertone, the stupid, easy, sneering, back porch cynicism of his piece, or his fiction, for that matter. But I didn't write a letter. I fire off letters to the editor all the time. I didn't write a letter there because I was kind of hoping someone maybe more in the know would, and oh my God, someone did, and it's on the nose. I want to read you the whole thing. This is from a writer in New York City. Ben Lerner's winding tale about a man who deploys a phalanx of false accounts on Wikipedia brought to my mind the countless Wikipedians who have held tight to the pursuit of truth while the semi-fictional Lerner, by his own admission, lost his grip. I have been a Wikipedia editor since 2019, and the mission of free knowledge has continuously motivated me to clean up vandalism and fill in the site's informational gaps, as in the articles pertaining to local politicians, emerging comedians, and extinct cousins of the platypus. With each keystroke, my fellow editors and I have contributed to the largest and most accessible, albeit still imperfect, source of information humans have ever had. That is not an exaggerated claim. It's amazing. It's only about once a week that I encounter any kind of subject that is not covered on Wikipedia. I ought to be a Wikipedia editor myself. I ought to just write up those subjects. The writer's not dead. This second paragraph is just an aria. Take the software engineer in Washington who has corrected the grammatically incorrect phrase comprised of about 90,000 times. The librarian in Alberta who doggedly patrols for copyright violations, or the California product manager who guards pages against content that glorifies Nazis. One teenager spent hours each day editing articles about the 472 subway stations in New York City until every one of them had a comprehensive entry. A white-haired retiree I know spends his days cycling around the tri-state area, taking freely licensed photographs of infrastructure and sometimes letting me tag along. Though some of Wikipedia's contributors manipulate the platform, just as Lerner's avatar did in his worst moments, the vast majority of us are shrewd, delightful, and ordinary people operating in achingly good faith. Let's give a little round of applause to that besieged Wikipedia editor. Let's not forget that there are people behind Wikipedia, and it is an unbelievably gigantic task. I don't think any of them are making bank. They're doing it out of love. Someday, the great Wikipedia book will be written. I don't think I've seen it yet. Maybe it'll be in today's mail, because believe it or not, after 15 minutes, we are getting to the mail in this mail haul. So let's see. We have a few packages here. Very depressing to get these. I had to go and get these packages myself. My surly houseboy was not available. The horror of it all. I had to go and get the mail myself. And the day outside is just gunmetal gray. It so much says snow is coming. I don't believe it. I don't think snow is coming, but God almighty. Will this winter never end? Anyway, let's see what we have here. This is a finished copy. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. God bless the publicist here. I know exactly why he's doing this, but I don't know that I can help him. Well, so we've seen this already, believe it or not. This comes out on January 30th, the end of this month. And this is by Deborah Jowett, and this is called Errand into the Maze. It's a life of Martha Graham. This is the finished copy of the book. In this book, the author, who began her career as a dancer and choreographer, sensitively presents Martha Graham's story from her childhood spent between western Pennsylvania and southern California to her early experiences dancing with Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn, through her emergence as a revolutionary choreographer and a leader of her own company, to her final years as an icon who continued to work into her 90s. Throughout, the author expertly weaves together stories about Graham's personal life and the larger cultural and artistic context in which she made her art, with deeply knowledgeable and perceptive interpretations of her work. And this has a starred review from Kirkus. It was reviewed favorably by Publishers Weekly. It's got Jerome Charon praised it in the American Scholar. And I understand why I'm getting it, but I do not know this at all. I don't know this person. I don't know her world. I don't know her art. I know why the publisher wants to send this to me, because regardless of any of those things, you just take the subject of the book out of the question. I have readership. I'm not a star. I'm not a household name, as book reviewers go. There aren't any household names anymore, but I'm not a big star. I don't have the kind of venue that would account for that, but I have a readership, and it's not small. And so a review of this book, I understand why I'm getting it, but I'm not the right person to review this. I almost never say that about a book, but surely there is a reviewer, maybe listening to me right now, who is in a better position to review this knowledgeably for Open Letters Review, the online literary site where I am an editor. I will do it. I will do it if I can't find anybody. I still have a week to commission this, to actually commission this to somebody. Otherwise, it's a biography. It's a book. There is almost no book I can't review. I think I'd feel better if I knew more about the subject. But now I have the finished copy anyway, so I can certainly read it and I can think about it. Maybe it's the kind of biography that will teach me so much that I won't feel like I need an expert. That'd be great. Well, let's see what this next one is, though. This one is an advanced copy. Oh, right. Okay. This comes out in March. Boy, oh boy. All right. This is 2 books in a row that aren't going to be easy to review. This comes out in March from the great folks at FSG. This is by Noah Feldman, and it is called To Be a Jew Today. Okay. A new guide to God, Israel, and the Jewish people. Let's see what the pub sheet says. It's got loaded with blurbs. Okay, yeah, you have to start this way. I don't know how you can write the rest of the pub sheet. If events since October 7th have presented American Jews with new moments of crisis, they have also exposed existing fault lines within Jewish life and thought that have been deepening for decades. Within a generation, beliefs and attitudes on everything ranging from a just settlement of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the ordination of women as rabbis, from atheism to new forms of messianism, from mysticism to Israeli democracy, have transformed, challenging received wisdoms. In this book, the author redraws Judaism's cultural map to reflect 30-plus years of tectonic shifts. Eschewing familiar labels, conservative, reform, modern orthodox, etc., he documents the rich variety of Jewish life today in fresh ways that cross-cut those categories. He explores changing relationships between Jews and Israel, from the surge of American Jewish support in the late 20th century to the protests against Netanyahu's judicial overhaul and beyond. And beyond. Yeah, just a little beyond. Tracing the political and cultural shifts that have shaped the diversity of views on Israel among Jews today. And the author brings all of these pieces of contemporary Jewish life to bear on perennially puzzling questions of Jewish identity, such as how should Jews navigate the contradictions between tradition and changing social norms? Should Jews feel united through religion or secular state or something else? If Jewish peoplehood cannot be defined through shared belief, nationality, and ethnicity, then what is it? None of those questions matter. None of them do. I'm sorry for Noah Feldman. I know this book was written long before October 7th, put into galleys long before October 7th. I'm sorry for FSG, but none of those questions matter. None of those questions matter when you go on YouTube, your nightly news, your cable news, Instagram, TikTok, and you can watch a picture of the last university in Gaza being blown to pieces, being detonated like something in a Hollywood movie. Not Israeli commandos going hallway by hallway. Just the Israeli government destroying a university. Leveling it. Not blowing up one room or one hallway. Leveling it. And the last university to go. Let's read a little bit more of this. This book centers the Old Testament story of Jacob wrestling with the angel and subsequent reunion with his brother Esau. No, that is not possible. I'm sure that's the center of this book, but the Old Testament, the only Old Testament story that matters at all is Amalek. That's the only one, is the felonious dictator of Israel who compared the destruction of Palestinian people to an Israeli battle, to a war in the Old Testament. A war of extermination. Kill their livestock. Kill their babies. Kill their women and children. That's the only old... It's not Jacob and Esau. It can't be. Anyway. The author explores the close relationship between the Hebrew words for wrestle and embrace, separated by just one letter of their three-letter roots. Okay. So Feldman is a prominent constitutional law scholar and the founding director of the Julis Rabinowitz program of Jewish and Israeli law at Harvard, and has written 9 books. I feel certain that one of his books I read and liked. I know the name. I don't see how you can review this book. I don't see how I can. How can... In the eyes of the world, 99% of which is not Jewish, Israel is Judaism. And Israel is engaged right now in wiping an entire ethnographic group off the face of the earth. Bombing hospitals, strafing relief columns, killing babies, blowing up universities. I don't know. This is very rare. Those of you who might be new to this channel, it is very rare for 2 books in a row to leave me like this. It's just... I don't know how I'm going to review either one of these for very different reasons. I don't know how would you review this book? This book will get reviewed in the New York Review of Books. Who is going to do it? And how are they going to do it without spending all of their 3,000 words simply talking about Gaza? How can a review of this book be about anything else? I don't know. I don't know. All right, I'm completely nonplussed by 2 books in a row. Let's go on to the 3rd book and see if maybe we can claw back some ground. There's any chance that this thing will be about a dead king, a dead Kennedy, or a dog? that would be great. Okay, it's a finished copy, whatever it is. doesn't want to come quietly. Let's get it out of this package and see. Let's see what kind of a mess we can make here. That's quite messy. Let's see here. Okay, this is a novel. All right, well, that's good anyway. It doesn't have any paperwork to it, so we will just read the dust jacket like you would in a bookstore. This is by Amy Avery, and it's called The Longest Autumn. Pretty nice cover there. So we'll just open the dust jacket and read it like we were in a bookstore together, and I was nagging you about paying for lunch. Tierney is one of four humans rigorously selected to usher the turn of the seasons into the mortal world. So this is fantasy? Every year she escorts the taciturn god Autumn between the godly and the human realms. Autumn's seasonal stay among mortals brings cooler weather, changing leaves, and harvest of apples and gourds until winter takes his place. Apparently, yes. I wasn't expecting that in Boston. This year, the enchanted mirror, that's with a capital M, that separates their worlds shatters after Tierney and Autumn pass through, trapping both of them in the human realm. As the endless autumn stretches on, crops begin to fail and the threat of starvation looms. Away from the magic of the god's home, Tierney suffers debilitating headaches that return with a vengeance. Worse, Autumn's extended stay in the human realm turns him ever more mortal and vulnerable, stirring a new forbidden attraction to Tierney, who's just been his guide for most of forever. She's just been his guide, but he becomes more human, he becomes more attracted to her. While the mortal world scrambles to find a way to reassemble the mirror, Tierney digs into the secrets of high society and finds an unlikely ally, or enemy, in the enigmatic sorcerer and master of poisons, Sidriel. Thrown into a world of mystery, betrayal, and espionage as she reaches for the truth, might Tierney lose her morals, her hard-earned position, and the illicit spark between her and Autumn? Okay, so it sounds like fairly Tony fantasy. It's from Flatiron Books. They're not a fantasy publisher. This seems like one of those fantasy books that might want to have crossover appeal. Do we dare to read the author's biography? Amy Avery is a graphic designer and a lifelong lover of fantasy living in Wichita, Kansas. Oh, isn't that right? That's wonderful. And she has a writing craft podcast. Do any of you know? The podcast is called And It's Writing. Do any of you know that podcast? A lot of you, I've been complaining about AuthorTube in my videos lately, not lately, but this year. And a lot of you have said, the kinds of talks, the kind of talking about writing that you want has migrated to the podcast world. It's gone off YouTube. That's why you can't find it. I don't listen to podcasts, though. Let's see here. She can also be found watching cooking shows with her husband, mixing cocktails, or catering to the whims of a rather demanding tuxedo cat. Okay. All right. Well, I've got all the sympathy in the world for you now, my sister. All right. So, a fantasy novel sounds fairly mythological, getting very much echoes of Persephone, right, in Greek mythology. All right, and then we'll move on to the box, which is it's shedding pieces as I touch it, that's not encouraging. I'm hoping we're not shedding the actual. Oh, gross! All right, that's an invoice. I don't need to touch that. What have we got here? Oh, great. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Another one that I don't have a sheet for, but we know, you know this series. We've seen this series before. This is from Princeton University Press. They do a series of books about ancient wisdom where they will present some segment or fraction or selection from an ancient author of Greece or Rome, repackaged sort of tongue-in-cheek as a self-help book. And we've seen a lot of those. A lot of them are quite good. They are not as gimmicky as they might seem. And quite a few of them I've seen include new translations. So let's see what we have here. This is called How to Be Healthy, an ancient guide to wellness. When you think of health, of physical health, of medicine in the ancient world, what name comes to mind? There's going to be one name. I think one name is going to come to mind more than anything else, and that's Hippocrates, the Hippocratic Oath. But maybe this other guy, maybe the guy here would come second to some of you. It's Galen. It's How to Be Healthy. I hope this cover is not going to suggest that I be physically active. And this is selected, translated, and introduced by Katherine Vanish. So let's go right away to Katherine Vanish. Completed a PhD in ancient history at Harvard University while earning an MD with honors at Harvard Medical School. Good Lord. Talk about overachieving. What, you too busy for Harvard Law School? What a slacker. She is a practicing physician and a member of the faculty at Vanderbilt University Medical Center and in the Department of Classical and Mediterranean Studies at Vanderbilt University. All right. Okay. So I'm assuming this is a new translation of Galen. That would be a lot of fun. Let's see. The 2nd century Greek physician Galen, the most famous doctor in antiquity after Hippocrates, okay, so we don't get Hippocrates, we're getting this number 2, is a central figure in Western medicine. A talented doctor, surgeon, writer, philosopher, teacher, pharmacologist, and inventor, Galen attended the court of Marcus Aurelius. Ding! We call him Marcus. In the BroTube world, we just call him Marcus. Living through outbreaks of plague, likely smallpox, that devastated the Roman Empire. He also served as a physician to professional gladiators, boasting that only 2 fighters died during his first year. His predecessor had lost 16. In writings that provided the foundations of Western medicine up to the 19th century, Galen created a unified account of health and disease. In this book, practicing physician and classical historian Katherine Vanish presents a collection of Galen's enduring insights about how we can take care of our bodies and minds, prevent disease, and reach a healthy old age. Eat right and exercise. That's what Bones McCoy says. Although we now know that many of Galen's ideas about physiology are wrong. Are they? Are you allowed to say that? Many undergraduates, I'm sure Katherine knows, many undergraduates at Harvard believe in the 4 humors. And if you tell them the 4 humors are not real, their parents will sue you. You'll be out of a job. But anyway, in these selections from his writing, presented in fresh translations. Oh, so this is the author translating Galen. Fantastic. That is incredible. Galen discusses the art of medicine, exercise and diet, the mind-body connection, the difficulty of applying general medical principles to individuals, and much more. Featuring introduction, brief commentaries that connect ancient medical practices to modern ones, and the original Greek on facing pages. That's incredible. And these things regularly do that. They are the more accessible and more affordable Loeb Classical Library. Long may Princeton do these. I mean, you're not getting the whole work. With most of them, you're not getting the whole work, but you are getting new translations and facing pages. That's, see? You get the Greek and the English there. That is no small thing. That's fantastic. This book offers an entertaining and enlightening new perspective on an age-old pursuit of wellness, from the importance of the exercise with a small ball to the benefits of avoiding distress. Well, the only small ball that I exercise with is my little bean. My tiny little baby. We don't do otherwise. We just wrestle with each other lately. The exercise that I take now is walks. And we can't do that as long as there's ice and snow on the ground, like there's some sort of northern latitude. Ridiculous. As long as there's ice and snow on the ground, we can't go on an enormous walk every day, which is how I keep my girlish figure. Once upon a time, though, I was never much for the small ball school of exercise, but once upon a time, I exercised a lot more. I left my dogs in order to exercise. When I had friends that provided aesthetic payoff, I would go to the gym and lift weights, but mostly my favorite exercises were solitary. Swimming laps, and especially bicycling. Don't do either of those. Don't do any of those anymore. I even had a stretch of years where I ran at night. Or I'd go for a 2 or 3 mile run at night. Kind of comical. I'm a very slow runner, like a Clydesdale. But none of that. I don't do any of that anymore. Now it's long walks for freedom. But this is fantastic. The only Galen that I have here is, I think, a Penguin Classic selection from 60 years ago. This is a new translation by a phenom and geared towards general accessibility. That is just wonderful. And all these volumes are like that. I strongly recommend this whole series. There's almost never been a dud. So you might want to look them up. What's the actual name of the series? Are they going to give me the whole thing here? It's Ancient Wisdom for Modern Readers. That's the name of the series from Princeton. And we have had, there's Galen, there's Aristotle, there's Seneca, there's Cicero, Seneca again, Aristotle again. There's one for Horace. Is Horace not going to be on here? Yes, there's Horace on here. And minor authors, too, who haven't had new translations of their complete works ever. Fantastic. All right, great. So, so at least we end on a strong note. I know a lot about Galen. I know a lot about the ancient world. This I know how to review. And this thing, I can certainly review. I don't have a date on it. I'll have to look it up. I'm hoping that it's January. But then we have these other two that are a problem. How to be a Jew today. How to be a Jew today is to thoroughly repudiate Israel. And that is a burden for Jews. For Jews today, especially the Jews that live in Israel. There is no way anymore that you can call what is happening, what Netanyahu's government is doing, his Trumpist government is doing. There is no way that you can call it anymore a reaction to October 7th. There's no way that you can do that. I remember that it feels like years ago. It wasn't. I remember just at the beginning of this whole nightmare, when that was floated, and there is still that famous, now infamous reel that Israeli government put together of the horrors of October 7th. That some journalists watched, and 2 journalists recorded it surreptitiously, so you can find it. You shouldn't, but you can. It can be watched, and it's horrifying. That footage is horrifying. No one in Gaza has made a clip show of the horrors that have resulted in the last 3 months. No one has made a clip show because no one's alive. The horrors are far, far greater. Far greater. And on a scale that humanity has not seen since the last land war in Europe. The scale is mind-boggling. There is no possibility of introducing October 7th into any discussion about what Israel is doing right now under the Netanyahu government. There's no way you can even bring it up. You don't even have to. Once upon a time, in October and November, you had to make a genuflecting mention of the horrors of October 7th before you went on to discuss bombing and cutting off electricity and stopping deliveries of food and water and cutting off power to hospitals and whatnot. You had to make a genuflecting mention of October 7th. You do not need to do that anymore. The scale of what has gone on since then is so mind-staggering that October 7th is irrelevant. I hate to say it about such visceral horrors, but it's irrelevant. It doesn't belong in the same conversation. And yet, it is happening that way. But my point is, how on earth to even talk about a book that's called How to Be a Jew Today? I don't know, unless it's diaspora Jews, unless it's I don't know. I'm honestly dumbfounded. I don't know how I would review this book. I'll read it. Maybe the book will give me a way to review it. That would be great, because I would like to give it attention. And then finally, Errand into the Maze, which is a big biography of Martha Graham, who, she's a figure in history and in art where I don't know that I would know if I was reading a good biography of her. I know nothing about the subject. I know nothing about the person. So an uneven mail haul that started with kvetching and ends with kvetching. Good Lord. How you people put up with me. We will try for happier videos tomorrow. We'll see if that works. We'll try for happier general content tomorrow. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll resume then. Thank you, BookTube.